Good morning indeed. Having a rough morning myself. Took my kids to Dutch Wonderland. If you guys don't know what that it is, it's a Lancaster, Pennsylvania amusement park. A lot of fun, very exhausting. Going back to Friday, Pirates could not get it done. I don't know what's going on with Paul Skeens, but that's 5+ earned runs, 2 starts in a row. But fortunately, I had a great bounce back yesterday. I released the play for free. Brewers Angels first three under 2.5. That cashes basically sweat free. And then on my premium picks, I went 7-4 with plenty of plus money to make it very well worth it. So yeah, it was a good day, good start of the month. Looking forward to what's ahead. Drew, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I didn't hit my UFC play on Friday, but hit my baseball play. Went 4-1 on baseball last week. I've been on a roll with the player out, so hope I continue it.
Nice. Prince, where are we going first? We got a lot to get to. We had the WNBA trade deadline, which I thought might be interesting to talk about. I think it was the Sparks that may have made a really nice trade with Plum. Is that correct? And then we have the MLB deadline, which ends at 6 p.m. today. And we're definitely going to talk about that.
Can I uh can I say something real quick? Just so this morning we don't necessarily have to fully talk about it, but uh the Giants traded Luis Rice and Caleb Killian, and Giants got a couple prospects, and then there's a three-way trade with the Mets with Brooks Raley, and then the Blue Jays got Jose Soriano for a prospect as well.
Yes. Small but goody is what I'm going to call the slate today. Not a lot of action, but we do have a few games here, and it was very nice that they rolled it out that every single like 40 minutes or so, we're going to get a new game. Am I on the right page? Yes, I am. Starting at 6:40, so very excited. It's going to be a good game. Just good day. Just be aware that the trade deadline is today and it very much affects certain pitchers. For instance, Jose Soriano was scratched from yesterday's game and then was traded either late last night or early today. So there is some shakeups available, and you should be careful picking on the players. But I think we have a good one today. I'm going to be fading the Rockies. The Rays are going to be visiting them 8:40 tonight. I'm going to take the Rays -1.5 at -104. I took this last night on FanDuel. I like opposite regression here. The Rays are going to bounce back after a very rough series to the White Sox, where they've scored an average of 3 or less runs over the last week. And then I'm going to also fade the Rockies to fall back to earth after a sweep over the Royals. First of all, the Rays bullpen, which is the most important piece of this bet, ranks third over the last couple of months. All right. Colorado just faced Kansas City's bullpen that ranks 27th over the last couple of months and very consistently ranks in the bottom 3 to 5 all season long. I like the Rays to get back on the hitting train, I guess I would call it. They're facing Michael Lorenzen, whose pitch to contact style, of course, has led to a 8.34 home ERA. The underlying metrics are some of the worst I've ever seen on a regular starting pitcher. He has a 9% barrel rate, 46% hard hit rate, with only a 16% strikeout rate. The bullpen behind him has admittedly been pretty good, especially at home, but that is on a relative scale, ranking 18th over the last month. But over the last 3 months, they still rank 25th. Not sure how much longer this bullpen can hold up. We have seen massive leaks recently to the Brewers, the Padres, the Nationals. I just don't see how this Rockies bullpen continues to perform at such a high level compared to where their talent really is. Not saying that they haven't fixed some things. I just don't think it's fully fixed. On the other side of the mound, We have Ian Seymour, who is coming off just like he is the man to go to when your starting pitcher is out. He's likely to appear in bulk relief after an inning or two. Colorado ranks 26th in hitting left-handers over the last couple of months, and Seymour's underlying metrics are mostly great. Slight concern with the ground ball rate combined with the barrel rate in a place like Coors, but he does have a 36.8% hard hit rate, and the whiff to strikeout ratios ranking around 29% to 28%. That should really work well against Colorado, who has started to slip in that department lately, falling 10 spots in just the last month alone. I really like the Rays to get at least 2 or 3 runs early and have their bullpen take over the rest of the way. In case it is a higher scoring affair, again, the bullpen is my deciding factor here, and I trust the Rays just a heck of a lot more than I do the Rockies. Drew, any thoughts on that play?
No, I like that a lot. I will say that your Rockies play maybe in the year is looking pretty good, but I think they come back to earth.
Yep. Yes. Just a casual reminder to our fans. I had 2 preseason plays. One of them looks really good. The other one's starting to look shaky. The Colorado Rockies over, I think it was 55.5 wins or something like that. And then the Dodgers to be under 108 or 109 wins on the year. So definitely tracking those. Looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season plays out. And we will talk about the Dodgers in just a minute. But Drew, where are you going for your baseball play today?
Yeah, this slate has a lot of like I would say iffy outplays across the board. The ones that I was looking at was like Nola, which was interesting, and then I was looking at Matthew Boyd, and then Shane Bieber, and then also Brandon Fott. But I know Matthew Boyd has been doing pretty well as of late. I think he's covered 17 and a half the last like 4 games. But uh, in this Cubs game, he's facing Justin Robletsky. They're at the Cubs. He does pretty well against the Dodgers. But I think the Dodgers, in my personal opinion, their offense is going to wake up like we expect them to. It's not like the offense was that bad against the Red Sox series. It was more so that the Red Sox are just a very hot team. So I like Matthew Boyd under 17 and a half outs. He is somebody that will possibly limit to 90 pitches. He'll go 6 innings, when they expect him to. But I expect the Cubs not to push him too far because I think he only has 4 full days of rest here. It might have, yeah, only 4 full days of rest versus the 5. So I like under 17 and a half for plus money at plus 103 for Matthew Boyd.
I don't mind that. Boyd's barrel rate to hard hit rate is concerning. He is a clear pitch to contact this year. He has a 9.5% barrel rate, 39.5% hard hit rate, combined with a 22% strikeout rate. Those are not numbers that you want to be facing the Dodgers against. Just isn't. I don't care which version of the Dodgers you're getting. Although I will say, I think that the pressure of all the signings may have had an effect on some of the hitting abilities, but again, like you're taking probably the number 1 team on paper facing Matthew Boyd, who isn't all that impressive lately, and he has a 4.35 ERA at home. So I'm on board. Prince, any thoughts on the MLB slate today? I think that it's really getting consistent performances from some of their key pieces that struggled at the beginning of the year. You have Cedon Rafaela, Wilson Contreras. You had a number of people who struggled earlier in the season. It looks like they're all coming together, as was expected preseason. Remember, the AL East was expected to be the hardest division in baseball, I believe. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there. And then the second part is that the Red Sox bullpen has consistently ranked in the top 5 over the last couple of months. So while their offense wasn't hitting, their bullpens were keeping them in it, losing close games. And now that their offense is starting to get rolling, their bullpen is winning those games. At least that's my take on it. Curious to hear Drew's thoughts.
Yeah, I would say the resurgence of the Red Sox in general is like people are starting to hit on their team that they expect to hit. Like say in Rafael, a young star that is coming to their own. We saw a little bit last year. He's been awesome. Wilson Contreras is also really good. Like everyone is just connecting and having timely hitting like we expected. Their pitching has been a lot better than expected to. I think them trading Connolly early didn't necessarily change anything. It sucks that Curtis me, the person who they got if we're ended up getting hurt. But I just think it's overall just they're hitting like they're expected to hit. And then the past we've seen earlier in the season where they couldn't get on base. They weren't playing as a team. They were playing as hero ball for each person. But we've seen more unity where it's one day it'll be Sedane, another time it'll be another player. So and wait till they get Roman Anthony back.
No, not for me. I did want to say that I almost chose the Giants as my official play today. I think they have a good shot at winning the game, if not by 2 runs. Hint, hint. But just felt a little bit sketched out against a Rangers offense that has been really on fire lately. To your credit, Prince, you've kind of been on them, and nobody else has been. They can make a sneaky run here.
Nope.
No, this tracks pretty well to what I expect from tonight. Just, New York Liberty, we've talked about them a number of times. They had a disappointing first half of the season. We expect a very much a nice second half of the season, and then the Atlanta Dream is just a little bit undervalued from the public's eye for some whatever reason. Actually, do you know why? At least from my perspective, it looks like the Atlanta Dream get disrespected pretty consistently. Yeah, that's kind of my feelings on that. Not that I really understand it or know that much about it, but yeah, that overall, that's kind of been my feeling. And watching them, I just don't understand why they're being underdogs in a lot of these matchups. Yeah, I love it. Just a note, the play that's going off in just a little bit, the line has moved to minus 200. So if you guys aren't listening and following to Prince's Picks already, go find his premium channel over there because you can get these at much reduced prices. All right, let's get into the trade deadline, or do we have anything else that we want to talk about? All right, I'll lead off, Drew, and then I'll pass it to you. And I think we're going to be probably repeating some of this information to you guys. But Tariq Skubal, man, the biggest, possibly, probably the best pitcher in baseball right now, just got traded to the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers, if you're looking at their rotation, you're looking at their bullpen, you're looking at their lineup. This is an all-star team. This isn't a regular baseball team. I kind of understand how people felt about the Yankees when I was growing up. Also, side note, thank you, Dodgers, for making the Yankees not the most hated team in baseball anymore. I really think that that mantle has now gone on to the Dodgers. I think, and Drew's probably going to repeat this information, this is going to force long-standing, long-due conversations about the salary cap in baseball. I don't think that there is a way that this continues to the way that it has been over the last 50 years or so. It's not possible for a team like the Brewers, as good as they are, and as talented as they are, and as small ball as they play, to be able to compete in the postseason against a team that has 5 all-star starters. Yeah, Prince, what's up? Because they have picked up the last 3 biggest trade the biggest free signings trades. They have gotten the 3 biggest people in the last few years. All right. They got Shohei. All right. That should have stopped them from pursuing the elite talent that they already have picked up. Who is it? I'm trying to figure it out right now because the name's escaping me right now. They picked up on the offseason a massive bat on the outfield. Drew, do you know what I'm talking
Kyle
about?
Tucker, yeah. Also, Shohei gives him 700 million per year in revenue.
Yeah. Like Kyle Tucker was probably the biggest name in the offseason in terms of a bat being signed. You're going to be getting, you got Yamamoto, right? Granted, that was already 2 years past, but they have been unstoppable in getting the elite top talent in the MLB, and nobody else seems to be able to compete. And I think that Tariq Skubal being moved to the Dodgers was just like you said, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't know, like baseball is supposed to be relatively competitive, but you're talking about Yamamoto, Skubal, and Otani in a postseason rotation. I don't know how you beat that. like
Also, Glasnow and
uh,
Snell, they picked up as well, too,
yeah,
throughout this way.
and who are absolute aces and still can bring it. They're very, very reliable. This team is just too stacked. It's not like the Yankees that got veteran all-stars that seem to decline as they age. They're getting the all-stars in the prime of their athletic careers. And that's a problem for everyone to have to deal with. And I don't think other people are really so happy about it. I feel in the in the Dodgers front office, they were basically saying, we can do this and ruin the league, but at the same time, this is our chance to go all in for a repeat. Why wouldn't we force the conversation? You might as well just get away with what you can get away with for as long as you can get away with it. Anyway, Drew, what are your thoughts? Wait, real quick. I just want to read out. I just looked this up. 13 of the 26 people on their active roster is an all-star. Half. All right. You have Otani, you have Betts, Freeman, Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez. Also, by the way, huge signing. Not maybe not the biggest signing of the offseason, but probably top five. Kyle Tucker, which I would consider probably the top signing there. Yamamoto. You have Robletsky, who just earned his first selection this year. You have Andy Pajes, who earned his first selection this year. Also, by the way, was hitting his home run props all earlier this season and last season. He's fantastic. You have Scooble, who just came in. Edwin Diaz, the closer. You have Tanner Scott and Eric Lauer. I mean, granted, Eric Lauer isn't probably in the same tier as some of these other guys, but you have the relief, you have top talent relief that can get you out of any problem any time. I am counting two people on their starting roster who isn't an all-star. It's just wild.
Yeah, so I I see stuff that gets misunderstood all around, like Twitter and stuff, when it comes to this kind of baseball, not understanding business, and just because the billionaire perspective of things. But the only people that, of course, don't have a problem with this are Dodgers fans, and I don't blame Dodgers fans. I'd be stoked if I probably was a Dodgers fan, but if you're explaining it, if you think in a way of like a Dodgers fan saying, "Oh, this is actually like good for baseball and stuff," it's not good for baseball. And the reason why it's different when these owners can't operate with the same revenue from the Giants, because the main X factor feels like I'm in some superhero movie, is Shohei. Shohei made up for his contract just season alone, where he generated, they can calculate all the stuff, they have analysts for everything. He generated 700 plus million in revenue alone. The Dodgers make more revenue than everyone else, and it's not even close. The profit margin is through the roof because of Shohei, and then you brought in Yoshi and stuff. And then others will say, like, oh, other people had chances to bid, and some people were scared. I was like, multiple different teams, Shohei, close to the same price. The Giants offered him, the Blue Jays offered even more, the Cubs offered him, and stuff. And then he chose, of course, the LA market. The revenue kept generating, and then they took advantage of the deferred money. Yes, it's been around in baseball for a long time, but they have a multiple billionaire group to where they generate this revenue, they can afford to do it, of course. And for teams like these other billionaires
yes, they're billionaires, but they don't want to operate at a loss every year. That's not smart business. No willing owner is going to go to a team's like, I'm going to keep up with the Dodgers and try to operate, lose 200-300 million per year. We saw Cohen do it with the Mets. Cohen with the Mets was willing to be the guinea pig. He was willing to lose $350 million this year to try to keep up with the Dodgers, but he still didn't have necessarily the pitching and certain hitting around. He paid Soto that much. Soto's a great player, of course, but to ask these small market teams like the Brewers, the Brewers are Milwaukee's one of the smallest markets, but with the NBA, the Milwaukee can win championships because there is type of cap like that. If you draft well, you draft a player, you can get lucky. But the Brewers have no chance. The Guardians have no. The only free agent the Brewers have got of note, and I think in this century, is probably Christian Yelich. And it's just overall teams you cannot hire new owners, you can't keep up with the Dodgers are doing. And once they're able to do this, they are able to get, because I had this question. If the Dodgers, because I guarantee you Scoop will pick, if the Dodgers were not able to earn this money and get all this revenue from Shohei, right? And let's say Snell, Yoshi, they said, mainly had Shohei, would Scooble still want to necessarily, and stuff like that? That's where it's kind of the final straw. It's like you're creating the Infinity Gauntlet, and these people are saying, well, these owners need to do better. Well, they can't. They physically cannot do on adding because their revenue is far beyond everyone else. I'll just say this real quick and I'll pass it off to Stern is I think the Tigers got really good prospects. People to say they got the 5th best prospect, 7th best prospect, and 17th best prospect. For the Dodgers, Dodgers have the top farm system to add more salt to the wound. River Ryan's a really good pitching prospect. Hope is a really good hitting prospect. They got a younger one. They got some really good prospects from the Dodgers, but their 5th prospect would be top like 3 anywhere else. So I think they got a fair trade off of it because another thing is Scubo probably wasn't going to stay in the offseason. They probably wouldn't be able to resign him for a lot of money. So I think it's one of those things. I understand why they did it and they want to get out of it because Scubo, I know he wanted to probably stay with the Tigers, but they couldn't pay him what he wanted to be paid. This kind of goes back to it. The Tigers don't generate enough revenue. They would be operating at a loss. Yes, he's a centerpiece, but he's not someone at the Tigers that you can fully, build around as of right now, because you want to more so build around hitters, and these hitters they have are young, because he needs more around him. Because Framber, I think they don't trade him if Framber ended up being close to Scoop. So, yeah.
Yes. I think that the Tigers realize that their chances to make a deep push in the playoffs this year, as great as they've been playing over the last month or two, we're starting to get a little bit longer and longer. The White Sox look better. There's a lot of teams in their division. It's very competitive. Scooble was likely to either walk in the offseason, which they would get basically nothing for it, and there's not there. The only chance that they really had to keep him long term was to sign him to an insane long term contract with money that they didn't really have. You're looking at a really good young rotation. They have some really good people, like really, really solid arms. Montero was there. Troy Melton stepped up into a prominent role this year. You have Framber Valdez, who hasn't looked himself, but definitely has the talent to return. Casey Mize, Flaherty. Did I mention Flaherty? Like you have a number of great arms there that can anchor the rotation for years to come. And I think that they're probably just looking at a rebuild right now, trying to get the young talent, see if there's anybody else who you can kind of sign long term without having to spend the capital to get those people. And I think that's really what it was about for them. I think that the level of competition that they were up against was just too much for them to really sacrifice 7 years, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to someone who, they just did this with Verlander and it worked out okay up until the last couple of years. And I think they were afraid of signing someone at or slightly past their prime for a long-term contract for such amount of money and then getting stuck at that with them for the end of their contract, despite the fact that Scooble clearly loves Detroit. Did you see his farewell speech? They brought him up there. He was crying. Like, it was emotional. It was very emotional. He loved Detroit. It was a great fit for many, many years. But the talent they have currently is enough to rebuild for the future without having to stick yourself with a huge bill for, again, Skubal is probably the best pitcher in the game right now. But for how many years? And are you willing to sign him to the biggest bucks that any starting pitcher is probably going to see for that long-term commitment? It was a tough sell. Six p.m. Yeah. I'll point out a few that are interesting to me. Yankees finally got rid of Camilo Duvall, who, to be fair, Duvall's an amazing pitcher, but he just couldn't put it together when the pressure was on consistently. And they get someone, Luis Cruz, from the Pirates, not O'Neill Cruz, Luis Cruz, who should be a pretty solid utility type player for them. And then on catcher, they were really looking for someone with a little bit more experience, more, I guess, a few years in who could produce reliably. But they got a great prospect in Omar Alfonso. I don't normally necessarily go so deep into prospects that get traded or young players that get traded, but I was very impressed with some of the underlying metrics for Alfonso. If I remember correctly, the power isn't necessarily there, but his slugging and ability to put contact on the ball is fairly, it's right up there. Yeah, Drew, what's your thoughts on that one?
I was saying you guys also got a really good player in Luis Garcia Jr. Before I go on with my.
Oh yeah, I was getting to that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
100%. Yeah. No, sorry. Go on. Yeah. Who is Luis Garcia, and why is that going to make a difference for the Yankees? Go.
Yeah, I loved him on the Nationals. He was one of those people where when he came onto the scene, he kind of broke out a little bit, slowed down, and then he broke out again. He's a very good contact hitter. He's actually one of the best, I think, in the league when it comes to making, just contact in general with the ball. He's not the fastest person, but he knows how to get the ball in play. He's not a 5-tool player, but more of a 4-tool, and I think he'll help the Yankees a lot. He's kind of like a mini, I'm not going to say poor man's at all, but he's kind of like a Luis Ariz in general, a younger Luis Ariz, to where he'll get the ball in play for you. He's not going to strike out a lot, and he knows how to get on base.
100%. He is going to be probably a platoon player, if I had to guess. He doesn't walk that much, but he is a very good contact hitter. He does rank among the top of the league also in contact. So definitely some some good options over on first base. It's just going to be messy. I think defensively, it's a step back for the Yankees. And if you've been watching the Yankees over the last couple of weeks without Bellinger and Judge in the outfield, that outfield is messy. Their defense is not great. And this is actually going to be a degradation of their defensive chances, but offensively they get another person in the in the lineup where they can actually just force the pitchers to work a little bit harder. Yeah, Drew, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I was going to speak on the Luis Ariz trade. Of course, by the way, guys, expect for a lot of the Giants roster to be traded. They already traded Luis Ariz and Caleb Killian to the Phillies. And I thought the Giants got a fair trade from it. Actually, I think they got more than I expected because they got Luis Ariz, of course, for like I think it was like a 1-year deal or something and not that expensive. And we got a high AA player, usually a high double A single A player. Usually those you never know. They could end up being a really good prospect and those low drafted and their 5th overall prospect in the Phillies system. So I was very impressed with that. And I also think it was a great trade by the Phillies. Them getting Luis Ariz makes me think that Alec Bohm is probably going to be gone. And I think that's going to help the Phillies a lot. The Phillies need someone like Luis Ariz to kind of set up Schwarber and set up like Bryce Harper, and then you can finally move Trey Turner if they do keep him to more of the middle of the order, so he can steal more bases. Because one of the biggest issues is when Trey Turner led off, and he didn't want to steal bases because he didn't want to risk getting out for Harper and Schwarber, and maybe that will ignite Turner. We'll see what they do, but I thought that was a really good trade on both ends. The Giants got more than they probably should have, and the Phillies got a bat that they needed to compete.
I think this is one of my favorite moves of the trade deadline. I think that Philadelphia, just like, oh gosh, my brain is not working today. They picked up Adolis Garcia from the Rangers over the offseason last season. They're adding really good contact bats. And the more that they pack that lineup, the more I really see them going deeper and deeper into the playoffs. I think this is an excellent move, and I think that this will really turbocharge that offense. I don't see how you're able to pitch across the 4 players, Schwarber, and this is not even including the people who are already on the Phillies who are good already, like Marsh, who's doing really well. But you have Schwarber, Harper, Luis Ariz, and Adolis Garcia when healthy. Probably 2 to 5 in your batting order. I mean, or 1 to 4. My God, that is a death row if I ever heard of one. That's a really tough lineup to get through. I'm very impressed. I think that was an amazing move. Got to give them props where the props are due. They've done some moves. They just have to get their bullpen in order. It's really kind of frustrating. Curious to hear hear what you're thinking here. Jose Soriano got traded today to the Blue Jays after the Blue Jays got rid of Kevin Gausman. Do you think that is good for them? Like, is that a positive on their end? Kind of mixed feelings on this one.
Yeah, that was very interesting because Gosman went to the Cubs, and then getting Soriano, because like this is the type of trade that you would make is like, oh, we're not giving up, like we can make a playoff push, right? To where if you kept Gosman, it's like you get another start rotation, and then you have Savage, Gosman, and Soriano as your top 4.
Oh,
so
and they added Taillon. Jameson Taillon from the Cubs. They added him as well. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, they added him. Okay, that makes more sense now what they're trying to do. I guess they're trying to make it so they have a solid 4-man rotation to still compete, and they're not giving up. And so what they did was Gosman is better than Jameson Taillon in my opinion. I think a lot of people may agree, but Soriano is a very good pitcher. He was very elite in the beginning of the season. He's still been really good. So I guess what they're thinking is we can get some prospects probably for Gosman, trade prospects for Soriano, and then we have a 4-man rotation because they got rid of Aragorn earlier. So this basically says the Blue Jays are not giving up on the season. I know it sounds crazy to say that, like, why would they ever do it? Well, they were doing terrible, and luckily the AL, you can have a lower record right now because everyone's beating each other up to make the playoffs. The Blue Jays, shout out to the Blue Jays front office. they're not hesitating. They know that their offense may wake up eventually, maybe Vlad will and such. So the Blue Jays are not selling. They're still trying to stay in it.
Yeah, there's a few more plays that I want to get to, and I'll just mention them. We don't have to go too deep in detail, but players who I think will do well in their new environments. Logan O'Hoppe to the Rangers. I think that's a really good move for them. Logan O'Hoppe is O'Hoppe. He is one of the premier catchers in the league, and definitely a huge splash signing in a way for the Rangers to really bulk up their lineup after losing some pieces over the last season. Not so much of a big name, but someone who I personally feel for, Dean Kramer. Hopefully he will have success with the Minnesota Twins in a slightly better pitching environment. Bo Naylor went to the Brewers. That was probably their splash signing of the trade deadline. That was really nice. I really like, though, the Braves got Lane Thomas, who was originally on the Nationals. He went to the Royals, and now he's getting to the Braves. I think that's going to be a really good environment for him. He's not going to have to play every single day. He's most likely going to be flipping in and out. I think that's a really good contact bat. And then Luis Castillo getting traded to the White Sox from the Mariners. Obviously past his prime, still has a lot to give, but huge money, huge salary requirements. That was a nice move for the Mariners, I think, but I think that Castillo will have success with the White Sox. Interested to hear, Drew, on what you think of that trade. And then Freddie Peralta getting dealt from the Mets. That was that was to me wild. This whole season for Freddie Peralta just collapsed. Not himself. We had a huge expectations from him. Utter disappointment. Wondering if the Rays, who typically do really well at rehabbing pitchers, relief and starters, curious to see how Peralta will bounce there. Any thoughts on the few players that I mentioned there, and then we can move off of this topic. We've been talking about it for at least 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an exciting time. I'll say this before I answer your question. Expect, of course, more players to be traded from my insider, because I listen to Giants a lot. Like Chapman will probably be traded, Elliot Ramos and Robbie Ray. But besides that, I will say with the White Sox, I think it's the first time we've seen in a long time the White Sox are buying. And you know what? They deserve willing to do so. And I think Luis Castillo is going to help them quite a bit because a lot of their starting pitchers right now that are doing better than expected, like Sean Burke, Davis Martin, and such. And then I love the Freddie Peralta pickup I believe you said it was from the Rays, right?
Yes, he went to the Rays. Yeah.
I love it because the Rays are really good at usually. Usually they're really good in general at farming and then selling off, but they're also really good at rehabbing starters in general too. Where that and the Brewers are another example, hence where Freddie Peralta started. But there's certain organizations that know what to do with different pitchers. Like we saw the Brewers do it with Kyle Harrison. We see the Rays are doing it with like Shane McClanahan and Drew Rasmussen and stuff. They kind of did it with Taj Bradley when they got him, and then they trade him to the Twins. The Twins are another good team at that. So I like that a lot from the Rays. I think the Rays are a team that can make a statement in the playoffs. They're another small market team to where it's hard for them to get free agents unless it's from trade, but they do have a team that can hit and a team that has solid starting pitching. So I'm interested to see where they go from here.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Prince, any final thoughts on the MLB trade deadline? And if you guys are just joining us or listening to this, just remember 6 p.m. Eastern today is the end of when trades can be finalized. We will hear news probably going about an hour or two after that as the trade details kind of come through to the media. But my gosh, it's going to be an exciting day, and definitely be aware when you're placing your MLB bets today. Prince, any thoughts? Oh wait, sorry. One last thought. I forgot. I wrote this down last night, and I wanted to give it out on the show. I just want to remind everybody that 70% of all prospects that get traded in these splash signings and deals and wheeling and dealing and all that, 70% fail to make the MLB. All right, sorry, Prince, go on. Oh, this might get me in trouble, but are you familiar with Pirate Bay? I, I used to. I I think both. So the truth of the matter is, I had a hard drive where I had all the movies that I could possibly ever really want to watch, legally, definitely legally, on my hard drive, that I could, just I had 1,000, I don't know what it was, 1,000 gigabytes or something like that. It was something insane. It was like one of those huge hard drives. Uh, So Block Blockbuster was definitely a part of the staple of our family. Every time it was like, family movie night, probably about once a month or so, or we went to on vacation and we wanted something, before Redbox, which was an exciting little addition to that. Blockbuster we used to go to and definitely rent movies. But whenever we were out, we would always be looking at the $5 bins for DVDs, and we definitely have quite a collection at home of so many different movies, that we still have hard copies of, and we watch them in the car with our kids when we're on long road trips. I also don't necessarily believe in having needing the internet for everything. So as much as possible, I try to make it so that, let's say the world fails out there, if as long as we have connection to electricity, we still could kind of take care of our own. I was in multiple hurricanes, twisters, different events where electricity and or internet seems to go out quite often. I don't have a bunker in the bottom of my house, although I would like one for doomsday. I'm kind of on board of keeping local copies so that I can watch things when I want to without having interference or having to pay fees or, like none of that stuff. Like I'd like to keep it local as much as possible. I would wait until it comes out in the $5 bin, and buy it then.
So yeah, I'll give it like kind of like a both ways kind of thing is usually my family would have like movies like in the past we would watch them family and I was born in 95 so I grew up in the heart of like I would say the DVD phase and stuff like that and then we would go to Blockbuster sometimes I think it was like every other weekend when I was a kid when I was either like 7 years old or something to where we would do this they had this like family deal where you can rent a movie you get a popcorn like one of those popcorn like bucket things that you can pop in there. That was like the coolest invention ever. And then a piece of candy for like $5. Those were like the times. And then when I would go to the theaters a lot, because that was a big experience. You show up early and stuff. And then if there was a movie that my family liked or me and my friends liked in theater, I would have I would beg my mom to, like buy it. It's like, oh, when it comes out, can we buy it? And it would come out like 5 months later. So we buy movies that we really like all time classics we had saved no matter what. Like the James Bond movies we bought. We bought like Zoolander, Anchorman, you know, like all of the above, like the classics. But the ones we would rent would be ones we'd be interested in. We don't know if we would like, so we had a Blockbuster right by us. So shout out to Blockbuster from that perspective. Want to hear a neat fact about Blockbuster that I found out, and I'm pretty sure it's true. It's on multiple sources, but in 2000, Blockbuster passed on a chance to buy Netflix for $50 million because they thought the mail-in DVDs was ridiculous, and they like laughed at it basically. Yeah,
Hey, it's better than Yahoo. Oh, sorry, it's better than Yahoo. Yahoo had a chance, I believe, to buy, what was it? It was like Google or Facebook. Oh, one of the two. They had a really decent chance to buy one of those big companies before they really made it big, and they turned it down, thinking that people still wanted their news and stuff like that, and it didn't turn out well for them either.
Yeah, they had a chance to buy both.
Oh, was it both? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember some kind of story about that, and
They had like
I was
different
just like, oh my
opportunities at
gosh.
different times to buy both.
Absolutely wild. All right, let's get to our recap because we are 5 minutes past. Although technically we are only an hour on the show. Apologize for being late today. Drew, why don't you lead us off on recapping our bets?
Yes, definitely. I have Matthew Boyd on a 17.5 outs at plus 103.
I am on the Rays, -1.5, -104. Let's get it done. Prince, close us out.